Hey everyone, Albert McDowell here with another YouTube video. And today I want to do something totally different. I'm going to do try to get a tire movie review out. And today I'm going to be reviewing Elvis. And I like to say it was a great movie. It was the first time I ever seen Elvis ever depicted in a movie. And there has been many in the past. I mean, especially one with Kirk Douglas. I mean, Kirk Douglas was once a young kid that actually was in a film with Elvis. I think it happened at the World's Fair. It's a scene where he kicked Elvis in the shin to try to get a girl to go out with him. I mean, if you know anyone else who actually knows Elvis better than Kurt Russell, be sure to try to go and look for their videos too. I'm sure you can find a few people left, but I want to get into the movie. It stars Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. Now, just for safety, this might be a spoiler review, so be sure that if you don't want any spoilers, click off the video and go see it for yourself. I mean, it's a good movie. It's got great chemistry between Tom Hanks and Austin Butler, and go see it for yourself and see what you think. But this is my honest opinion. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's try to get to 1,000 subscribers. Okay. All right, here we go. To start off, I mean, Tom Hanks did a great job as Colonel Parker. Everyone hated Colonel Parker back in the day, and Austin Butler did a very excellent portrayal of Elvis. You can almost see that very accurate on how Elvis used to act and his mannerisms and all that, how he used to move. And I think it was actually shot pretty well, shot okay. It's a little bit crumped up altogether. I mean, you're seeing flash, pizzazz. I mean, it's just almost like a cartoon movie. I mean, I seen one of the director's other movies, the remake of The Great Gatsby, and I thought that was a little bit overhyped, over colorized, but that's his style that he loves doing. I mean, the thing is, I thought The Great Gatsby was shot well, and it was a little bit cartoony, and this was a little bit cartoony as well, but it fits. I mean, it does actually fit. Every director has their own little style. I once mentioned that Tim Burton's almost like the Edgar Allan Poe, so therefore, whoever this forgive me if I say his name wrong, Baz Luhrmann, is that he's almost like the Liberace of film or the Shakespeare of film. You get to kind of get that sense of style to him, and it's okay to have sense of style. That's not if it's over redundant. And we all know that Tim Burton's over redundant with his movies. Always cast Johnny Depp and Danny Elfman as a composer. So in some ways, directors have their own quirks and style to them. So that's okay. So, getting to the movie. It basically is told through Colonel Parker's eyes. His real name is not Colonel Tom Parker. He was an immigrant from the Netherlands who came over here and basically changed his name and became a manager at the circus. And that's how he found Elvis in this movie. And it's basically like the relationship between the two of them. And more about Elvis's career, it's got a little bit of his backstory. Excuse me. That's already been told. That already been told by Kurt Russell and a couple other actors. I mean, that was already told back in the 80s and 70s. So you kind of get the idea where this movie was going. It's basically told Colonel Parker's eyes. And I once mentioned a comment on another YouTuber channel that Colonel Parker was basically the almost the first in the decade, in that century, was like the first Harvey Weinstein. Now everyone knows what pure evil Harvey Weinstein is, and the thing is, that's how I'm seeing Tom Parker as almost like the Harvey Weinstein at the time. And at one point in an interview, Eddie Murphy, when he was a kid, said that Colonel Parker once rubbed his head as like a good luck charm, and he didn't like that very much. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, you got like Joe Biden right now You kind of got like Joe Biden, almost like the modern day Harvey Weinstein, Tom Parker, basically rubbing kids' shoulders and sniffing the hair. I mean, there's a lot of creeps out there. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, there's a lot of creeps. But this movie basically shows, it kind of gave you a little bit of sympathy for Tom Parker, but I didn't have no sympathy whatsoever for this character. I mean, you really want to hate this character so badly. Excuse me. Because he really is controlling Elvis so badly that it makes him, he basically manipulates him, exploits him for his good looks. And at a certain point, he's at, as soon when Elvis is done at the International Hotel, he fires him, and that's when all payback, you know what they say about payback? Well, Colonel Parker made sure he got the payback back, like nearly $8 million worth, dating all the way back to 1955 to, I want to say, to 1973. So that's almost like a 18-year backlog of all the expensive since then. I mean, it's really worthwhile what Hollywood people have to go through these days. I mean, the business has not changed since then, and it still hasn't changed for the better. It's basically gotten worse. I mean, you've seen how we all hear what's been going on in California about all these managers and studio executives like Harvey Weinstein and also Kathy Kennedy. They're all running, basically making the business too much of a cult. So, and this movie Elvis was actually a good lesson on what to look for in Hollywood. But the thing is, when I first saw it, I'm feeling so sorry for Elvis because he's basically just like every single man who wants to go in again to Hollywood and be successful and, have excuse me, have everyone love him. And that is what every man and woman wants. They want to be loved by the public, but then also have to get into the whole politics and culture stuff. I mean, there's even a lot of talk about cancellation, especially back in the 50s when they wouldn't allow him to actually do the dry ration, they called it, of all the hits. They were actually going to try to cancel him at the same time. So the thing is, it's almost like a parallel universe of what's going on right now with all the cancellation and parallel and the ending of careers just because you're making a move or you're saying something or anything like that. So this movie is almost like a mirror image of what happened back then, and is excuse me, it hadn't got any better. I mean, there had also been there also was talks about with Julie Garland, Arby Hepburn, and Mickey Rooney, how they were all almost in the same kind of club with MGM, and they were all put on extensive diets. They weren't allowed to even eat certain foods because they wanted to make sure they had all the energy to try to do it. So the way how Colonel Parker treats Elvis was all the abuse. It's not just the emotional abuse; it's the mental abuse and the financial abuse. Is that he really makes Elvis be almost like, because since Colonel Parker was in a circus show, almost like a freak show as a circus show. His whole act is basically just what Elvis once said on stage, that he's a slave in a golden cage. And in some ways, that's pretty much true. He was almost like a slave in a golden cage and being controlled by Colonel Parker. Basically, he's the master and Elvis was the slave and all that. So it's actually a good portrayal and great film to tell you how bad Hollywood is and how much they control you and to control you what you say, do, and who you love. And that's just one lesson we need to take from that. So if you all live in California, you all been seeing what's going on with California and what Hollywood's been doing with all their cancellation of different stars. I mean, you want to try to speak up to try to help save your career, but you don't want to try to be afraid to try to reach out to people and saying that you're struggling, because you see how bad Elvis has suffered from this movie. The pressure got to him even after when his mother died, and then also got into a ruckus where he literally found out that Carl Parker wasn't even a legal person. He was an immigrant, a illegal immigrant. So it's kind of basically almost heartbreaking to see these two go through this heartbreaking you know drama to where he basically is almost like a second Tom Parker's almost like a second father to him. So it's just one of those things where we gotta be careful. We gotta be careful on who we trust in California. So all you want is living in California. You want to make a good, living, and want to do, get good like success and love from everyone. I mean, all power to you. I hope you guys do great. But you gotta be careful who you trust. I mean, all the Harvey Weinstein and Kathleen Kennedys. I mean, they're all out there trying to make money off you, and all you are just their little puppets. So be careful what you wish for, and always use your good judgment. And worst case scenario, always try to go back on the people who really love you, your family, your friends, the ones who you really trust, the ones who are not trying to make money off you. And that's what this movie is actually a good lesson to try to watch out in Hollywood. And at the end, Carl Parker gets his comeuppance, and he basically wandering around the hotels in Las Vegas and spending all his fortunes because he finally got his comeuppance. And that's what we would want to see to all the evil people who try to control our lives. So if you like the movie, I would say out of five, 1 out of 10, 10 being perfect, which hardly any movie is perfect unless it actually won an Oscar for being a good storytelling film. I would probably rate this at an 8. I mean, there were some musics that it basically drove almost all of Elvis's music track, and even brought some of the archive footage of Elvis. And the acting was great. Excuse me. The acting was great. They brought in some of the modern music, which I thought was a little bit too stand out, too much. So if they stick with some of the music that was actually throughout that time, it probably would have been a lot more better. So I probably would give it about 8 or 7.5 out of 10. As a 1 out of 5 scale, probably would give it a 3. So the thing is, it's actually a good film. Go check it out at the theaters, and hopefully you might like it. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this video. 1,000 subscribers. This is Albert McDowell, signing off.